Football, the beautiful game, a sport where billion-dollar clubs dominate and global superstars light up the pitch, and money often decides who wins and who loses. But every now and then, something magical happens. A team or a nation no one believed in, or a group of players who just didn't care about the odds, they rise, and they shock the footballing world, make history. Today in this video, we're diving into 5 of the greatest underdog stories in football. From Leicester City's fairy tale Premier League title to Morocco's incredible World Cup run, these are the moments that remind us why we love this sport. So without further ado, let's dive in the stories that made football fans believe in miracles. Leicester City Premier League champions 2016. Imagine walking into a casino in 2015 and putting all of your money on Leicester City to win the Premier League. The odds? Good question. 5,000 to 1. Those were the same odds as winning the lottery twice in a row, but somehow Claudio Ranieri's Leicester side pulled off the impossible. A team that had barely survived relegation the season before suddenly became the best in England, led by Jamie Vardy, a striker who once worked in a factory and became pro at 23 years old. Riyad Mahrez weaving magic on the wings, a player that was signed in January 2014 for £400,000, and N'Golo Kante covering every blade of grass like he was powered by Duracell batteries. Week after week, the television broadcasters and analysts kept saying, "They'll fall off, they'll run out of steam," but they never did. From that famous 2-1 win over Chelsea, to 2-0 against Liverpool on 2nd of February, and 3-1 away at Manchester City on 6th of February 4 days after, to Vardy breaking the record for scoring in 11 consecutive Premier League games, Leicester made the impossible possible. And when they lifted the trophy on May 2nd, 2016, it wasn't just a win for Leicester, it was a win for every fan who believed in the magic of the beautiful game. Bayer Leverkusen, Bundesliga champions 2023-24. Now fast forward to Germany. For decades, Bayer Leverkusen had one of the harshest nicknames in football. They were known as Neverkusen. Why, you might ask? Because in the year 2001, they were so close to getting a treble, a status that only clubs like Inter Milan, Barcelona and Bayern Munich have achieved. And it would be a very big milestone for the club. But they were runners-up in all the 3 major competitions: the Bundesliga, DFB Pokal Cup, and the Champions League against Real Madrid, with that famous goal from Zidane. But then in 2022, Xabi Alonso took charge of managing the club, a well-respected player that had achieved a lot in his career, including winning the World Cup, the Champions League, La Liga, and many more titles. But was he good enough to manage and take control of a club in the top 5 major European leagues? The fans had to wait and see. When he came, Leverkusen was sitting near the bottom of the table, staring at a relegation fight. Fast forward to 1 season after that, and they weren't just winning games, they were rewriting German football history. In the 2023-24 season, Leverkusen began playing fearlessly with attacking football. Florian Wirtz, one of the brightest young stars in Europe, was running the show in midfield. Granit Xhaka brought steel and leadership. Jeremy Frimpong was bombing down the right side like a winger disguised as a fullback. And defensively, they were tougher than ever, barely giving opponents a sniff. But it wasn't just the results that made Leverkusen's season legendary. It was the way they did it. Time and time again, they pulled off the impossible in the dying minutes. Like when Ezequiel Palacios buried a penalty in the 94th minute to snatch a point against Bayern on opening day, or Josip Stanisic's 97th minute header against Dortmund that left the yellow wall in stunned silence. And who could forget Florian Wirtz's winner against Gladbach in the 101st minute of stoppage time? It was chaos, it was drama, and it was pure Leverkusen. Week after week, they kept winning. The momentum grew. Fans started whispering, could this actually be the year? After decades of disappointment, hope was returning to the Bay Arena. And then it finally happened. Not only did Leverkusen win the Bundesliga, they did it without losing a single match. The first team in Bundesliga history to go unbeaten. Bayern Munich's 11-year reign was over. They were left stunned, finally knocked off their throne. Leverkusen fans had waited decades for this moment. And when it came, it wasn't just a title, it was redemption. For years, people joked about Neverkusen, but after 2024, it became Forever Leverkusen. Porto Champions League 2004. In 2004, Porto weren't exactly nobodies. They were a pretty big team in Portugal, But let's be honest, nobody had them on their Champions League bingo card. The giants of Europe were stacked, with Real Madrid's Galacticos that had players like R9, Luis Figo, Roberto Carlos, and then there was Manchester United with peak Sir Alex, AC Milan's dream team. And here we have Porto, a team with a young, unproven coach named Jose Mourinho. At the time, Mourinho wasn't the special one yet. He was just a confident, tactical mastermind in the making. His squad wasn't built on world-class superstars either. Instead, it was full of players who played with hunger. Deco pulling strings in midfield, Ricardo Carvalho marshalling the defense, Costinha and Manic providing grit, and a handful of underrated talents who would later go on to shine in Europe's top leagues. The road to glory wasn't smooth. In the round of 16, they faced Manchester United. The tie looked over, until Porto stunned everyone with a last-minute goal at Old Trafford. Mourinho sprinted down the touchline, celebrating like he'd just won the World Cup. And in many ways, that moment announced him to the world. After that, Porto grew in confidence. In the quarterfinals, they faced Lyon from France, a team full of attacking flair. But Porto's organisation and Deco's brilliance proved too much, and they advanced with authority. Then came Deportivo La Coruña in the semi-finals. Deportivo had just pulled off a miracle against AC Milan, overturning a 4-1 first-leg deficit. So many thought Porto would be their next victim. But Mourinho's men were too disciplined, too clinical, and Porto edged their way past into the biggest stage of all, the Champions League final. Their opponents? Monaco, another underdog, but one that had already knocked out Real Madrid and Chelsea, so people still gave them the edge. When the whistle was blown in the UCL final, Porto played the game of their lives. Deco orchestrated everything. The defense shut Monaco down completely, and the final score was a resounding 3-0. That night in Gelsenkirchen, Germany, wasn't just Porto's greatest achievement, it was the launchpad for Mourinho's legendary career. Within weeks, Chelsea snapped him up. His players got big moves across Europe, and Porto, they went down in history as one of the most unlikely Champions League winners ever. It was the ultimate proof that with belief, discipline, and one very confident manager, you don't need to be the biggest club to conquer Europe. Morocco, 2022 World Cup. In the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, Morocco shocked the football world. Nobody had them on their list of favourites. In fact, most Moroccans thought they'd be lucky to make it out of their group. But this team wasn't just playing football, they were playing for history and for pride. Their group stage looked brutal on paper. Belgium, the number 2 ranked team in the world at the time. Croatia, the 2018 World Cup finalists, and Canada, who had just made their first World Cup in decades. But Morocco didn't flinch. After a hard-fought draw with Croatia, they went toe-to-toe with Belgium and won 2-0. That result sent shockwaves across the tournament. They followed it up with a 2-1 victory over Canada, and just like that, Morocco topped the group and into the rounds of 16. In the round of 16, they faced Spain. 90 minutes passed, then 120 minutes. It was still 0-0. Penalties would decide it, and goalkeeper Yassine Bounou became a national hero, saving 2 spot kicks to send Morocco into the quarterfinals. For the first time ever, an African nation had reached this stage since Ghana in 2010. Their quarterfinal opponent, Portugal, with Cristiano Ronaldo desperate for winning his country's first World Cup. But Morocco had other ideas. In the 42nd minute, Youssef En-Nesyri rose into the air like he had springs in his boots and scored a towering header. And after the goal, they defended like warriors for the rest of the match. And when the whistle blew, Portugal were out, and Cristiano's dreams of winning that year's World Cup were shattered, and Morocco were in the semi-finals. History made, the first African team to ever reach that far. In the semis, the dream finally met its limit against defending champions France. Despite battling hard, Morocco fell 2-0, but even in defeat, they earned respect worldwide. The players had given everything. And what about the stars? Achraf Hakimi had already been a big name at PSG, but his ice-cool penalty against Spain made him immortal in Moroccan football. Sofiane Amrabat was so good that European giants lined up for his signature, eventually landing him at Manchester United. Yassine Bounou, the penalty hero, earned global recognition and a move to Saudi Arabia. Hakim Ziyech, who had been left out of the squad months earlier, came back to shine on the biggest stage and restore his reputation. For Morocco, it wasn't just about football, it was about unity, belief, and breaking barriers. Their run wasn't only legendary for Africa or the Arab world, it was legendary for football itself. Iceland, 2016 Euros. In the 2016 Euro, Iceland, a nation with a population smaller than most European cities, made history at the European Championship. Nobody expected them to even qualify, let alone cause trouble. But trouble is exactly what they brought. They started in a group with Portugal, Hungary and Austria. Most people thought they'd go home early. Instead, they held Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal to a 1-1 draw, fought hard against Hungary, and also finished that game with a 1-1 draw, and then beat Austria 2-1 thanks to a dramatic stoppage time goal. That win sent them through to the knockout stage. For people of Iceland, that was already a miracle, but they weren't done. In the round of 16, they faced England, one of the giants of world football, a team desperate to bring it home. And within minutes, Iceland pulled off one of the biggest shocks in tournament history. They came back from an early goal to beat England 2-1. The final whistle wasn't just a win, it was an earthquake in football. England went home humiliated, and Iceland marched on to the quarterfinals. Their dream run ended against host nation France, losing 5-2, but it didn't matter. By then, Iceland had already captured the hearts and respect of fans everywhere. And then, of course, came the celebration that went viral, the Viking clap. Thousands of Icelandic fans in the stands, arms raised, clapping in unison, sending a booming echo through the stadium. It was powerful, intimidating, and unforgettable. Soon, teams and fans all over the world copied it, from clubs to national teams. Iceland may not have lifted the trophy, but in 2016, they gave the world one of the greatest underdog stories ever. Proof that even the smallest nations can shake football's biggest stages. And there you have it. From Leicester's miracle in 2016 to Bayer Leverkusen finally breaking their curse, Porto shocking Europe in 2004, Morocco's unforgettable World Cup run, and Iceland showing the world that the nation's population size doesn't matter. These are the kinds of stories that make football the beautiful game. The underdogs reminding us that anything is possible. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me keep going and create more content like this for you. And if you have your own favorite underdog story, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.